Welcome back. WW Fly Corvair. What's the coolest airplane in the world of Corvair powered flight? The Twin Jag, of course.
Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of FlyCorvair.com. Today we have Ginger and Jim Tomaszewski with the Twin Jag. Ginger and Jim Tomaszewski, thank you for having us here at your beautiful air park and for showing us the Twin Jag. We're really looking forward to finding out how you came up with the idea, how you made it come to fruition, and how it flies and what your plans are for it in the future. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to go right over to Jim. And Jim, tell us what the Twin Jag was initially.
I built it back in the 1990s as a quick build RV6A kit. Had a Lycoming 0320 with a Sturber wood prop. I flew for 9 years, and then as a culmination of too much time in hotel rooms and too little time of single engine time, I decided to make it into a twin engine.
Now naturally, I think the first question that people ask is why? Why take apart a perfectly good working airplane and then make something else out of it?
Well, like Ginger says, I put the word mental and experimental, but it really boils down to, of my 20,000 hours of flight time, I only have 500 hours of single engine time. So I have a slogan that says, simplicity plus redundancy equals reliability. So I like to have a lot of things, and the simpler they are systems-wise, I feel it's more redundancy, and reliability, I should say.
Fair enough. Ginger, what do you think of that when he told you?
I thought he was crazy.
That's the slogan.
Plain and simple.
Right, hence the slogan. Okay, so cool. So when you came up with this idea, aside from challenging yourself, making something new, did you have a particular mission statement in mind? What are you planning on doing with this?
I started my design using the RV6A as a platform. It makes a great sport aircraft, aerobatic wise, and a really decent cross-country aircraft also, but I wanted the redundancy of a twin engine airplane and truly redundant systems. So that was my basis for making a cross-country aircraft. I never used the RV6A as what it was designed for, as a true sport aircraft. I used it for cross-country use only. So I just basically took that as a platform and tailored it to something more up my alley. You know?
Okay, and how did the process start? Obviously, you had an idea.
Yeah, well, that's when I said about the a lot of time in hotel rooms. I started making the drawings a good year to 18 months before I did any changes to the airframe. The hardest part about the whole build was breaking the news to Ginger.
So I guess we can count that as a hurdle, because that was going to be my next question: is what challenges did you come across on this path?
Well, actually, that slogan that it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I actually was a good several weeks into the teardown and build before I told Ginger, and that seems to be the best way to handle working with her. So that was the biggest first hurdle, and then I made over 100 drawings and engineering calculations and so forth, and the actual teardown and the build up of the airplane itself just took time. But it was nothing really daunting or super challenging, because it's sheet metal work and fiberglass, forming, and it's building engines and wiring. It's all what we do on the kit building side of it, but it's just a little more customized,
So what did you use for sources of information for your research, for the engineering?
Just my culmination of being in aviation for 39 years was the biggest basis of it. Engineering books, consulting with 2 or 3 engineer friends of mine, including one famous engineer, which I'd like to remain anonymous, but he helped quite a bit with torsional stress on the wing and different mods I had to do to make the aircraft strong enough to handle the weight and the hanging of 2 engines on the wing. But that internet resources sometimes I take a lot of that with a grain of salt. You know, I'm a forward thinker, outside the box thinker, so I usually don't go with other people's ideas. I do what I think is right, and then I just back that up with known knowledge. You know.
Excellent. And speaking of hanging 2 motors off an airplane, you chose Corvair motors. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was your thinking?
Yeah, about a year before I started the project, we've been going to Oshkosh for 20 years, and I saw a forum on the Corvair flight engine with William Wynn. So I dragged Ginger down to the forum, and she thought I was crazy, but it wasn't more than 10 or 15 minutes into William's presentation. I looked at Ginger and I said, this is the engine. It's compact, it's right in line with the weight I need it to be, keeps my drag profile down, excellent cooling, smooth running. I wanted direct drive, air-cooled direct drive. I'm not a reduction drive guy. I don't. To me, it goes back to my saying about the simplicity part of it. The Corvair flight motor is about as simple as a flight engine gets, you know, and it had lots of redundancy. So and proven. So since I'm going to go off the beaten path with an unproven airframe design, it's nice to have something that has tens of thousands of flight hours on it. So.
And did you build the motors yourself?
Yes. What I did was, since I needed 2 of everything, I actually bought a core, tore it down, and built that engine up using its all new parts basically. But the second engine I piecemealed versus getting a core. So I did it 2 separate paths, but the engines were ultimately built on the same workbench on the same weekend. And then I took it down to Barnwell to run them.
Barnwell, South Carolina.
Yeah, the Corvair College. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I was there. I remember
I
seeing them come to life for the first time.
Yeah.
That was quite a special moment.
Yep.
So, so how many hours are on the airplane right now?
The airplane had 250 hours on it as a single engine, so the airframe itself still has 250 hours on it. The engines themselves have 120 hours each engine, and the airframe now as a twin has 80 hours. So the 40 hours extra engine time was ground runs and stuff like that before I got it flight ready. You know.
And how, I assume you've done some cross countries already with this?
Yeah, the 40-hour phase 1 was uneventful, but it was chock full of testing. The single engine version was much easier because it was a proven engine and RV6A was a proven airframe, you know. But once the 40 hours was done, I took Ginger on a local flight, and then we went to Connecticut, up to Hartford to see some friends. And then I flew down to Georgia, and now taking it to Oshkosh. So it's from here on out, it's going to be basically cross country, you know, because all the testing is complete.
What are some items on the bucket list?
As far as where to go?
Yeah.
We used to go to Block Island quite a bit when we were living up in Long Island. So now that we're down in Georgia, we're going to Jekyll Island. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jekyll Island is going to be like our Block Island. And it's nice because it's got a 3,500 foot runway, and that's kind of my limit on performance with this airplane. A self-imposed limit, which I could explain later. Oshkosh this is going to be the one and only year because logistically it's really hard to move an airplane and then come get our camper to camp out for the week. So I want to do it this year because it'll be the first and only time we bring it to Oshkosh.
Understood. And Ginger, question for you. So you've been on a couple flights on it already.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, I love it. It's extremely quiet. The noise reduction from the engine being in front to them going to the wings, it's incredibly quieter, more quiet. I love it. It's so much fun. It's very responsive when you're flying.
Have you flown it?
Have you got some stick time on
Jim
it?
lets me fly it up at altitude. I don't take off for land.
I'm not an autopilot. I don't either.
Yeah, he doesn't really need me anymore. But it's incredibly smooth. I love it. It's It's night and day actually from what it was as far as noise wise. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about stats and some technical details and some times. How long did this take you, start to finish?
9 years total.
9 years
I would say, if you consider the engineering and the drawings I had to do beforehand, it was pushing 10 years. So I'd say 10 years total. A year of that, or 6 months of that, was the paint job, which I didn't do. So, 8 years of full-time building, and that's truly a full-time build. When I wasn't flying for work or at a family gathering or something, I was at the airport working on it. Granted, you go there 8 hours a day to go work on the plane, and all of a sudden I come home and Ginger says, "What'd you do on the airplane?" I said, "Well, I installed 3 nut plates." And she goes, "Why?" "Well, all the people who come by and ask about it, I had to talk to them." So, that really probably could have been condensed into 5 years if I was rude and told my friends to just let me be,
It was 6 hours of talk and 2 hours of work.
Yeah.
Part of the process,
Part
right?
of the
It's part of the
process,
fun.
yeah.
Well,
Part of the
and
fun.
it's a unique thing, so everybody had taken an interest in it. So I think that, if it would have just been a regular kit build, maybe the interest level wouldn't be so high. But because he is such an out-of-the-box thinker, and it was so, well, people think it's very much out there, it drew them to him.
Well, it's funny, it blew a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
The first year or two into the build,
Well, it blew mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, at
but
the beginning.
even my
So-
hangar mates would come by and they said, "What are you doing, taking a perfectly good airplane apart?" But they didn't see my vision. So when they saw the plane in a million pieces, it wasn't, like I said, at the beginning of the build, 9 out of 10 people were naysayers. Though you fast forward 9 years later, and when it was done, almost 10 out of 10 people would say it was the coolest thing they've ever seen. So it's just amazing when you have the vision, you think it's the coolest thing I've ever done from day one. But when the average person sees what I'm doing, it takes time, and they need to see what my vision was before they reinforced that, hey, this is not someone just tearing a perfectly good airplane apart. He has a plan,
Yeah, and 90 to 95% of the people are very positive about it. You always have your 5%ers that, aren't out of the box thinkers that, look to pick apart rather than encourage, out of the box thinking.
Sure. But I've seen it myself. I've seen there's some negative press, if you will, people having their concerns. But you have a flying airplane. We're talking 9 years to build. What do you get for some other performance statistics? So what's your cruise like?
Well, the funny part about it is it flies exactly the way I thought it would, feeling wise, and it doesn't perform any better than the RV6A did. I knew it wouldn't. I knew the weight would increase, the drag profile would increase, and all the things that come with it. So, but I wanted a redundant cross-country platform. I wasn't looking to make it to go 20 extra knots, or it wasn't in my profile what I was looking for. So it checked every box I wanted to, and some, So to make a long story short, it flies exactly performance number-wise as an RV6A did, with a Lycoming 0320 with a fixed pitch turboprop. But with that said, the mods I had to do to make it into a twin actually built into some better features. And for example, I had to extend the wings. I elected not to extend the ailerons because I felt all the RVs, in my eyes, are very sensitive in roll. But that's by design, because it's a sport aircraft, But if you're flying IFR with it, and you're looking down at a chart, or you're doing something, it's not a good feature to have. So I kind of engineered that out, and I'm extremely happy with the roll rate now. It's what I put in is what I get, and it's what I felt, I knew. It's just weird. It feels exactly like I thought it would, Because a lot of people say, well, how come you're not extending the airlines? And, well, there's a reason why you do everything you do, from an engineering point of view.
What kind of range are you getting?
Once again, about 3.5, 4 hours, just like the 6A did. My fuel capacity is increased, so in addition to increase in fuel burn, having 2 engines, the increased fuel capacity takes that into consideration. So the problem is I have a butt range. I can't really go more than 2.5 hours in that airplane because the small confines. So we kind of limit it to a 2.5 hour airplane. And another benefit to that is what we enjoy is hopping into a small airport to get fuel, and the more linemen we talk to and show it to and see, it's part of what makes general aviation fun.
It
You don't want to
definitely-
bypass a lot of airports because that's the fun, the taking off and landing and the interacting with the locals at these small airports, you know.
Well, and it definitely attracts attention wherever we go, because people try and figure out what it is.
Yeah.
They're not quite sure, and so they eventually will come and ask Jim.
Yeah.
But they definitely try, and you can see, you know, it sparks a lot of interest anywhere that you go.
Yeah,
Even-
a lot of
Even at home with the hangar door open, people driving by, it sparks interest.
air traffic controllers asking me, you know, other pilots, just airport bums walking up to me saying, hey, a lot of people think it's a twin Grumman, you know, because it's got a cast ring nose gear and 2 engines, so they put those two together and they think it's a twin Grumman, you know, but nobody really said, hey, it looks like a twin engine RV, you know, because it's really not. And I don't like to even refer to it as an RV. It used to be an RV6A, and now it's a one-off design twin jag, and that's where the similarities end. Yeah.
Twin Jag. Okay, now I remember we were standing at Oshkosh. I think this was about maybe 4 years ago, and you asked me, or I asked you rather, why Jag? Okay, and you were looking at me like, isn't it obvious? You know, so let's, for the benefit of our viewers that you know maybe are at the same intelligence level as me, JAG stands for.
Well, if Ginger had her way, it would be Twin Gage. So let's just leave it at that.
We had to compromise. It's Jim and Ginger.
Yes, this is a personal endeavor of mine. It's not a commercial venture, you know. So there was no real thought put into the name. It's a twin engine, and let's just use our initials, you know.
It's Jim and Ginger.
So
And it was just that, wasn't it? It was very much a collaborative project between you two. I mean, it wasn't just you.
no, it's true.
Some
Jim,
aspects
you know,
of it, yes.
yeah.
Well, the engineering and the building part,
That was
obviously.
all Jim.
But when it came
Yeah.
to interior color schemes, there was a lot of input
Paint
by
job,
Ginger.
yeah, that was me.
The Burlwood panel, like I would suggest something, and then she would give my input, and I would say, you know what, you're right. That I think would look better, or would make more sense. And we came to a meeting of the minds, and that's what we ended up with.
I mean,
yeah.
talk about making everything. Jim even made the Burlwood panel. And
I wasn't planning on doing it.
explain how that you did it.
Well, I was going to actually outsource that because I know where to pick my battles, you know. But I had a specific look in my mind, and so I went to a Burlwood place and I ordered a sheet of Burlwood. It's not cheap, you know. And I said, well, how am I going to code it? How am I going to label it? Everything has to be labeled perfectly, switches and everything. So I got stencils from a model railroad store. And I traced out made all the cutouts for the Avionics, and I traced on the lettering, make sure everything was straight and everything. And then I got some solo cups like this and put the sheet on top. And then I went to a building supply place and got that bar top, two-part epoxy you mix, and self-leveling. It bubbled the bubbles bubbled out of it, and I poured it on. The excess rolled off, and went down in the basement the next day, and it came out as good or not better, I think, than if I would have paid thousands of dollars to have someone do it. So
It looks amazing.
It does look
Yeah.
amazing, it does. And tell us a little bit more about your panel. I noticed you had Dynon equipment in there.
yeah, once again, it's my true redundancy thing. The Dynon, what made me, I really like the Dynon Skyview touchscreen because first of all, I like the touchscreen ability of it. I like the ability of where you could break the screens up to where I could put the left EMS page on the right side of the left screen and vice versa on the right screen. So I truly have an engine stack of engine instruments. I could customize it, I could set the limits. It's got dual AHR systems, it's got a 2-axis autopilot, it's got electric trim, heated seats, USB ports. All the things that the original build back in the 90s didn't have.
All the creature comforts.
It's got a Garmin 430 to make it IFR capable. And but so far we've just been flying VFR with it. But my goal is not to fly a hard IFR with it. I have to do that for work. So what I do is, you know, on a day where you're trying to get out of an airport and there's a 1,000-foot overcast, it's nice to have the ability to be able to just break through on top and get going. When it was a VFR RV6A, we didn't have that ability. We were waiting it out until the weather got better. So.
Sure. And you know, along the lines of redundancy, which has been a theme with this, of course, it's a twin. Have you done testing, your single engine climb, you know, loss of either engine? How does it perform in that realm?
It performs as good as I thought it would. It's I wouldn't say it's Apache-like, but it's not a Beach Baron or a Wing Derringer either. To give you an example, the testing I did, you know, the engine, the critical engine on it, it's the opposite of what most airplanes are, because these Corvair props turn opposite from where the Lycoming turns. They're not counter-rotating props, and I have fixed pitch 3-blade carbon fiber props. But I don't have to market this aircraft, so I don't need to go out and put an expensive heavyweight constant speed featherable prop on it. So I found a happy middle ground of making a prop brake system. I know it's been done on airplanes in the past, but this is simply a 2-pound system that cost me about $20 to make. It's a bicycle brake caliper that puts a side load onto the flywheel. So if the prop's going to stop windmilling on its own anyway, because it's a low inertia, lightweight prop. But this would, in case like a crankshaft failure or something, and the prop was out there windmilling on its own, I have the ability to stop it from turning, which will theoretically reduce the drag 93%. So with that prop stopped, all my twin engine testing on it, single engine testing on it, has been done with the engine at a 0 thrust at basically idle. So I know the numbers I've seen will be better if the engine was shut down and prop locked. But it's, to give you an example, full rudder, opposite aileron, 5 by 5 degrees, slows down to about 105 miles an hour, and I could eke out of a 200-300 foot amount of climb. So I limit myself on longer runways and treating it as a single engine if there was any hiccups in the critical phase of takeoff. But the redundancy of the engines was put in there to limp somewhere if something happened anywhere else during the phase of the flight.
Excellent. So the next big adventure is AirVenture. Oshkosh, of course, and that's coming up on us pretty quickly here. You're leaving in a few days, actually.
Yes, yeah.
Monday.
Monday, right. It's coming Monday to bring it up to Oshkosh. And you already have an idea where the plane's going to be, correct?
Yes, I was working with the EAA to get a, I had a choice of several places to park, but I wanted to be next to the Fly Corvair booth because a lot of my, you know, the airframe obviously was my idea, my design, but William Wynn and the people that work with him and the guys like you, Ken, and Dan and Rachel and everyone that's involved, they're the reasons why I was so successful to build 2 engines that I've had not a single hiccup with since the minute I built them. I mean, these engines have been bulletproof, smooth running, everything I wanted them to be. Every day I fly them or run them or even look at them, I'm even more convinced it was the right choice. So with that in mind, I wanted the plane to be next to the Fly Corvair booth. So that's what it's going to be. It's going to be on the grass area, right at the first spot next to Williams' tent.
And just for the benefit of our viewers, there's been some changes to the EAA grounds since 2019. Williams' booth used to be right on the flight line.
Yeah.
And it was really convenient because you truly could park right next to his booth.
Yeah.
However, they've moved that section, and really you'll be closer to the Home Builders Cafe, Home Builders headquarters.
It's actually going to be the first row south of the cafe.
Correct, and that'll be directly abeam Williams' booth. So just so people know where to locate you.
It used to be closer,
Correct,
but it's still going to be within live view and a couple step walk. So
that's awesome, and I know I'm looking forward to seeing it in Oshkosh. I really want to thank you for hosting me here at your wonderful air park, showing me your wonderful airplane. I'm sure there's a million more questions I could have asked you, but I just wanted to get an overview, and I think we've done that. And I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure hanging out with you guys over here, and I'm really looking forward to that flight.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You know, I can't wait to get a flight in that airplane. When,
and if anyone
when the
has
timing's
questions, make a trip to Oshkosh this year. We'll be there every day, so be glad to answer anyone's questions.
Absolutely. Jim and Ginger, thank you so much.
Thank you for
Ken.
coming out.
Appreciate it.